Hi, this is Mark Serrazano from the International Piano Technician School, and I get this question a lot. When should I tune my piano? Before I answer that question, we should talk a little bit about the piano. This is a picture of a piano with the lid off so you can see the soundboard. The soundboard is the yellow, large piece of wood underneath the strings in the plate. Here's a picture of the cabinet sides, and now I'd like to show you the soundboard. Notice that the soundboard is dome-shaped, slightly curved up. That's called crown. Now we have the bridges that are going to hold the strings. The string will go up to the bridge and then down the other side of the bridge. So the string, when it's under tension, is pressing down on the bridge. Now, what happens in the summer when the weather is humid? Moisture will seep into the soundboard and cause it to expand, but it has nowhere to go but up. That will cause the strings to go sharp. In the winter, moisture leaves the soundboard, causing it to shrink and flatten out, which causes the pitch to drop. Now, in order to talk about when you should get your piano tuned, we need to talk about relative humidity. Let's imagine this is how much water the air can hold. If that's how much water is really in the air, we say the relative humidity is 50%. Relative humidity is how much water is in the air compared to how much water it can hold. But air has an interesting property. When you heat it up, it can hold more water. And in this example, the relative humidity is more like 30%. Relative humidity is an indication of how easily the water will move from your soundboard to the air and vice versa. It is not how much water is in the air, it is how much water is in the air compared to how much water the air can hold. Hot air can hold more water, so it actually has a lower relative humidity if there is no water around to be evaporated and go into the air, for example in the desert. Relative humidity is determined by the amount of water in the air and the temperature, because the temperature affects how much water the air can hold, which affects the relative humidity. Now let's look at some interesting situations. Air conditioners in the summer. In the summer, it's fairly hot and there is water in the air. There's usually a lot of water in the air because the hot air is causing the water to evaporate from the ground in lakes and rivers. This example could be at 60% relative humidity. But what happens when that air from the outside is brought into your home through the air conditioner? The air has a lot less water in it. How do we know that? Because we can see droplets of water coming out the back of the air conditioner. You see, when the air gets colder, it cannot hold as much water anymore. And when it gets really cold, below what we call the dew point, that's when the water will start to condense out of the air. And the relative humidity of the air right at the air conditioner is about 100%. But look what happens when we walk just a little bit away from the air conditioner. The air is coldest right near the air conditioner, but once you get far away from it, the air actually heats up. And what is in that air? The same water that was in it coming out of the air conditioner. But now that the air is a bit warmer, it actually has a lower relative humidity. So it's quite possible in the summer to have dry air in your house. Relative humidity in your home depends on how far you are from the air conditioner. What about heating in the winter? Here we have a furnace that's heating up the air inside the house. When you open the doors to go in and out of the house, the air from the outside is going to come in. That air is cold, and it doesn't have a lot of water in it because a lot of the water has condensed and turned into snow. You can see it. It's not in the air. It's outside in the snow. In this example, we have a relative humidity of about 50%. People think it's dry in the winter, but outside it's actually not that dry because the air is so cold. Even though there's not a lot of water in the air, it cannot hold a lot of water, so the relative humidity is actually higher than you might think. Once that cold air comes into your home, though, it heats up. But it still has the same amount of water in it. That's why the relative humidity in your house is a lot lower, like this example, 20%. A lot of people ask me, is it okay to put my piano in the garage? Actually, that's the better place for it, because in the garage, the temperature is lower. Even though we have the same water, the relative humidity is higher than it is in the house. Relative humidity in your home depends on how far you are from the hot air. So then the question is, how am I supposed to know what the relative humidity is in my home? We recommend you purchase a hygrometer like this one that shows you the highest relative humidity your house has seen since you last reset the hygrometer and the lowest humidity it has seen. The ideal relative humidity is about 42%, but more important is that the relative humidity doesn't swing by more than about 20%. If it swings by a lot, that's when your piano is going to go out of tune horribly. So now back to the question, when should I tune my piano? Well, now that you understand relative humidity, let's look at what the relative humidity is like in the northern United States and Canada. In the winter, it's pretty dry. In the summer, it's pretty humid because of the water that's evaporated from the lakes and rivers. But look what happens to the pitch of the piano when it's affected by the relative humidity. It follows it. But not right away, because it takes time for the moisture to go into the soundboard and cause it to swell and the pitch to rise, or leave the soundboard, causing the soundboard to flatten out and the pitch to drop. So now the question, when is the best time to tune the piano? If you're tuning twice a year, the best results are to tune the piano in the spring and the fall. The reason why, as soon as you tune the piano, it's going to stay in tune. That's the green right here. So you tune it, the humidity has already changed. It's now March. So you tune it, and now June, July, August, the humidity is high. The piano is staying in tune. And then come the fall, it starts to dry out. The relative humidity has started dropping. The piano takes a little while to follow it. And then pitch starts dropping. Then you get it tuned, boom, now it's in tune for the whole winter. Until the spring comes, and just when it starts to get a little bit out of tune, boom, you tune it again. Now it's nice and in tune for the whole summer. So if you're tuning your piano twice a year, the best time to tune it is in the spring and the fall. But never in the late winter or late summer. If you wait till the late winter or late summer, as soon as you tune it, the humidity is changing, and now the piano's going flat, and then continuing to go flat, and will be horribly out of tune all winter long. And then in the spring, when the humidity starts coming up, you get it tuned again. It's okay for a little while. Then it starts getting sour. And then in the summer, it's horribly out of tune. Never tune in the late winter or late summer. What about if you're only going to tune your piano once a year? The best results are to tune it in the early spring. It's not going to be perfectly in tune for very long, but when it goes out of tune, it's not going to go that far out of tune because you tuned it in the early spring when the humidity was just starting to change. So it's not that far from where it was tuned in the early spring. And then in the winter, when it starts drying out and the pitch dropping, there will be a little time in the middle of the winter there where it actually doesn't sound bad. And then it'll start going flat again. You tune it again in the spring, and the cycle continues. Early spring is a good time to tune your piano if you're tuning it once a year, or you might decide to tune it in the early fall. The same thing happens. Once you tune it, the humidity has already started going down. You get it tuned. The humidity is still going down, and your piano's in tune for a little while until the soundboard starts flattening out. Then it'll go a little bit flat. Not much, because you tuned it not at the top, but in the middle. So it's not going that far away from where it was originally tuned. And then in the spring, the relative humidity starts coming up, and then the piano actually has a period of time when it doesn't sound too bad. And then as the fall comes, you get it tuned again, and the cycle continues. But never in late summer, because if you tune it in the late summer, before the humidity has started dropping, the piano will be in tune for a little while until the humidity causes the soundboard to flatten out. And then in the middle of winter, you're going to be horribly out of tune because it's going to be so much flat compared to where it was when it got tuned. And then in the spring, it'll start coming back a little bit. Then you get it tuned again, and the cycle continues. Or in the late winter, the same thing, just in a different season. You get it tuned in the late winter before the humidity starts coming up. Piano's in tune for a little while, but then it starts going out and continues to go out horribly. And then the summer, it's horribly sharp, and then it might start coming down a little bit and start to get close to being in tune. Then you tune it again, and the cycle continues. So when should you tune your piano? It depends on how often you're going to tune it. If you're only going to tune it once a year, the best time is early spring or early fall. The worst time, late winter, late summer. If you're going to tune it twice a year, the best time is in the spring and the fall after the humidity has changed, so that your piano will be in tune for the summer and the winter. The worst time, also late winter, late summer. I hope you enjoyed that. This was a video telling you when you should tune your piano, presented to you by the International Piano Technician School and the Mark Serezano Tuning System.